Hey, how are you doing? No matter how sublime political ideology a country supports, I think ethnical characteristic tendency can be remarkably seen in country's politics and a country's war stance, I think. So I found news in this morning about Russia's wrongdoing and cruel, inhumane activities in the war between Ukraine and Russia that violate the international law. So the United Nations Human Rights in Ukraine, Bogner announced that there was a fact that Russian army invading Ukraine tortured and abused the war prisoners. And she also denounced that Russia didn't actually accept the United Nations to allow it to inspect the POW camp, the prisoner of war camp, and she also said there were some camps that didn't actually provide it uh, medical care system and the food and water supply appropriately for the war prisoners. So, according to Bogner, Russia just prohibited war prisoners from telling their family their uh, body conditions and health conditions and where they were in custody in Russia. So there were some pregnant women in the POW camp, so that the United Nations just claimed that Russia to release them from humanitarian standpoints. So more or less, I think during the war, people have an aspect of cruelty to fulfill the justice of a country that they belong to, from the viewpoint that all enemies are evil enough to be killed and tortured abusively. However, I think the degree of cruelty in the battlefields strongly depends on the ethnical humanity that widely influenced the country. I mean, if Russian army headquarters didn't instruct soldiers abusive, abusive activities, torturing to prisoners this time, I think there would have been a great deal of possibilities that individual soldiers had done that kind of activity, that kind of cruel activities by themselves secretly, I think. So it is no wonder that Russian army did uh, inhumane activities that violate the international law during the war. If we consider what they had done before historically. So the number of fatalities in Russia in World War II about was more than 10 million, which was the outstandingly largest number of fatalities in the world and back in World War II. So it is kind of an old story, but I think the human nature would not change easily for only a couple of hundreds of years. Because the current ethnicity that country has and the current ethnicity that you can see in the country has been cultivated for thousands of years since the dawn of civilization in the country. So, and at least I think things will be changed. Things will be changed, and things will be slightly better if establishing a political measure in the United Nations that somehow forces the Russia out of the current position, the member of Security Council of the United Nations, than just accepting the current situation that the United Nations just denouncing Russia's wrongdoing, Russia's cruel activities from the outside when it just treats Russia sensitively with great caution because Russia is the member of Security Council of the United Nations. So anyway, the fact that there is a great threat of nuclear power of Russia still remains in the international community. So I think cruelty with a crisis of conscience and aggressive fighting stance can be seen in Russian people's trouble on YouTube videos from the standpoint of ethnical characteristic tendency. So of course, I don't think every Russian people behave like that. I don't think every Russian people behave like that, but I'm sure there's overall trend in Russian people's personality. And once starts, I think this kind of ethnical characteristic tendency comes out badly.